Hello everyone, good afternoon. My name is Adinda Zahrah Salsabila. My line student number is 110. So I'm going to present my individual review, which discuss about applying cultural linguistics to translation studies, a new model for humor translation. The authors are Georgina Hayden and Sajad Kianbach. The author's background is RMIT University, Melbourne, Australia. The name of the journal is International Journal of Comparative Literature and Translation Studies. This article was published on 31st of July 2020. The pages are 1 to 12. The volume is 8. The issue is 3. The keywords are comparative literature, cultural linguistics, humor translation, literary translation, and translation studies. Moving forward to the introduction, the study intended to prove and show some of the contributions of cultural linguistics approach toward translation of humor in narrative texts, such as novels, and examine the application. The study was also intended to suggest a new translation model which contribute on current research both in theory and practice of the translation itself. Translators' biggest obstacle is humor references which depend on culture, especially when their working languages originate from different cultures. According to Van Dyle, 2010, page 149 in Handbook of Translation Studies emphasized to this perspective that humor can be relatively translated due to the cultural aspects which can't be separated and related to one another. Sierra and Zabal Beascoa, 2017, page 12, argued that, however, particular literature which specifically devoted to the topic of humor translations are extremely rare. Therefore, it shows that translation of humor is a field of research with a lot of potential that requires more attention. The next one is method, discussion, and results. Humor is embedded in certain cultural contexts where it was produced, and it's the part of using everyday language and also the component of many work of literature in every linguistic community. The way people use humor not only show their ability to play with languages, but also show their beliefs and cultures which possessed by the language speakers, values, and their communicative styles. Steinkick, 2017. To translate a humor, translators have to realize not only languages, but also the culture in the source text. They need to tear down cultures and analyze the component of the source text so the languages and the cultures can be reconstructed into a new linguistic reality from the text target. Hence, a new model for humor translation must answer the theoretical challenges in translating humor from cultural perspective and linguistics by applying multidiscipline approach that which treat languages and cultures as a related, interdependent, and can be separated matters. Cultural linguistics is a current multidisciplinary field of research developed by Sadifian 2017A, 2017B that explores the relationship between languages and cultural conceptualizations. Cultural conceptualizations is a tool which used by cultural linguistics to learn the cultural cognition aspects and its instantiation in language. Peters, 2016, page 1. Cultural conceptualizations. A central concept here is used in this research to show patterns of knowledge distributed in each cultural groups. Sadifian, 2011, page 3. Cultural conceptualizations, as stated by Sadifian 2017A, 2017B, catch all humans' life aspects, such as conceptualizations between life and death, conceptualizations of emotion, body, and humor, which encoded and communicated through language features, despite the fact that verbal humor that found in novels, usually created by ambiguity or playing with various level of language structures. Atardo, 2017 C, Ciaro, 1992, 2017, and 2019. Therefore, understanding humor and translating it depend on its cultural specificity, in which it's funny and functional in some cultures. Antonopoulos, 2004, page 224. This relationship This study chose novels as the corpus of the study analysis because novels and literature books strengthen the relationship between elements of linguistic and cultural context in which they are produced. Chiaro, 2010A, 2010B, Rojo Lopez, 2002. In spite of the difficulties related to the novelty of the model proposed here, there are several contributions which the model has based on the cultural studies for translation studies. First, providing a thorough approach. The analysis of cultural linguistics that proposed in this study gave a thorough, multidisciplinary approach and coherent in translation studies because it helped us to correlate a set of translation problems to cultural conceptualizations underlying the language features in a systematic way. Second, systematizing the culturally constructed elements. Despite the methodological novelty that the analytical tools of cultural conceptualizations may have, an approach that applied in this study is very useful for translators as a framework to implicitly systematize problems that related to culture conceptualizations that appear when translating across the source language to the target language. The last one is associating language features to the underlying cultural conceptualizations and cognitions. This is one of the most crucial contributions, which is applying cultural linguistics for the first time to translation studies and its capability to explain translation problems beyond the language-oriented approaches, words, and sentence level analysis. Moving forward to the conclusion. To sum up, apart from the novelty and limitations, it's impossible to ignore how important is cultural conceptualization and its analysis to translation studies and intercultural communication, which needs a further research about the relationship between languages, cultures, and cognition of translation studies. Cultural conceptualizations ideas allows us to analyze, create schemas, and categorize cultural metaphors. Cultural schemas, cultural categories underlie language features in translation studies for the first time and put it into the analysis of the linguistic information. Therefore, the model can be applied and found for intention in deconstructing translation of elements which culturally constructed, such as humor across the source of language to the target language. The next one is overall statement, discovering several contributions which is given by cultural linguistics approach toward translation studies, specifically in translation of humor in narrative text, for example, in literary work and novels, and also examining the practices the study conducted based on this purpose. This study showed that cultural conceptualizations and its analysis to translation studies and intercultural communication is very essential and requires a further research regarding the relationship between languages, cultures, and translation studies cognition. Based on my personal opinions and understanding, although the topic was quite difficult for me to understand, the authors categorized the discussion into parts. For example, it was obviously stated which one was the introduction, which one was the conclusion, which made the readers could identify each part easier. I guess that's all from my individual review. Thank you so much for your time to listen and good afternoon. Have a great day.